All right, we just listened through Counterparts' new album, a eulogy for those still here. So now we're going to talk about it a little bit. I'll give you a little bit of little review portion, some track breakdowns, and then we'll go into a little deeper discussion with Jordan. So this was my first listen through of a full Counterparts album. They're a band that I just kind of slept on. I knew of their existence. I saw them live. I just never, took time. It was just one. It happens. So this was my first listen through. I kind of knew mostly what to expect. I'd heard some singles and stuff and seen them live. Overall, I think this is a very good album. There's some definite. There's a lot of passion put into this. You can tell. As I mentioned earlier, I think I noticed that they take enough time in between albums to really, I think, put some work into it, and especially with the first track, the actual track, "Whispers of Your Death." You can feel so much emotion in there, and there's a lot of moments like that in the album actually. And I think that's, as I said, a mark of good music and good songwriting is having those that emotional. You can have all that emotion and still be, beautiful, melodic, and also heavy at the same time. I think a lot of bands try to, to get that feeling. They just get slower and not as heavy. I think you can do both. But this band also does softer parts. There are some softer moments in this. So some notable track moments in here. Obviously you have the super powerful, very powerful intro. You have the little intro track that's like 40 seconds, little melodic build up into "Whispers of Your Death," which, for anyone who's lost anyone or a pet or anything, even if you're not, if you just have that connection with people and stuff, you can feel through the lyrics and everything, just, the "make your cancer mine," like, oh my god, like that's a lot. And then you've got "Unwavering Vow," which was their first single release, I believe, for this album. I really like, there's a melodic breakdown in there, like it builds up and what you think is going to be just like a heavy breakdown, but it's actually like more melodic. There's, some beautiful guitar work in the background. Underutilized thing in a lot of music these days, to build up something like that, and then again have that counterbalance of melody and heavy at the same time. You've got the title track, "A Eulogy for Those Still Here," which I thought was really interesting. It starts out like just right off the bat with a chorus, because they come back to that chorus I think 2 or 3 times in the song. So it's kind of like catches you off guard. And it's a really again, there's like some clean singing in there, and I really like that. "Skin Beneath" was track number 6, right in the middle of the album. So it serves as like a kind of like an interlude almost. It breaks up the album, I think, pretty perfectly. It's very almost like shoegaze influence, not exactly shoegaze, but there's just some of that influence there. It's a little bit faster than that, but it's a very nice breakup of the album, I think. Then "What Mirrors Might Reflect," I really like that one as well. He shows off a little bit more of his vocal range right at the end. There's this breakdown, and he brings out those high screams, that just kind of punch you. Like it's right at the end. You almost miss it. I kind of wish he would do more of that, but as Jordan said, he's got "End," where he does a little bit more craziness. So I understand having a little bit of difference between those two. Excuse me. "Soil 2" is track number 9. It's another kind of melodic break, though this one leads into a more normal, heavier end. And it also brings out, I think, the only real true solo, as you would call it, in this album. I think, which is I used to hate solos. I never cared for them, but I've grown to like them over the years, and I think specifically placed, as long as you don't overdo them, like it can really pick up. And I think they pulled it off. It was a really great track there as well. And then into a breakdown, so you got the solo and a breakdown kind of at the same time as well. And then Flesh to Fill Your Wounds is probably, I'd say, the most memorable breakdown in here. A lot of the breakdowns in the album aren't anything too crazy. It's just kind of, just a melodic hardcore, metalcore breakdown. Nothing too build-up-y, and big boom and no 808s and shit like that. But this one, if you want a good breakdown to really like dance to, there's your track right there. So again, not having listened to a lot of Counterparts before, but knowing kind of who they are, and knowing that Brendan says that he kind of rips off Misery Signals. I like that this band has their own identity away from Misery Signals. To be honest, there's a lot of influence in there, especially like guitar wise and stuff like that. The melodic parts, I think, are very Misery Signals. It's very Misery Signals a little bit. Sometimes even the vocals dive into a little bit of Misery Signals, but they have enough different parts, a lot of the faster parts and stuff that I think kind of, Misery Signal has those too. Yeah. Just I can definitely feel more of their own identity, which is a good thing, and I think they really, you go into an album and you can hear that it's Counterparts. It's not just, Misery Signals worship. So I appreciate them for that. And I think they have a lot more in common with the melodic hardcore side than, like I said, Misery Signals does. I even felt some moments in here that kind of reminded me of For the Fallen Dreams too. Especially, I think it was the Soil 2 track. That one is very For the Fallen Dreams. If you're a For the Fallen Dreams fan, it feels like that. They have a lot of songs that do that very pretty build up into heavy at the end. There's a lot of interesting guitar effects in this album. There's I didn't write down which songs it was, but there's different moments where they put just like different pedals and stuff over the guitars to kind of make it sound a little bit more interesting, and just like as opposed to just a normal, all like heavy metalcore, hardcore stuff. So I liked it. There's a lot of atmosphere brought in through the guitar work, mostly the guitar work. Pulls off a lot of the atmosphere of this album, along with the lyrics. I think the lyrics in here, I sat and read all of them as we went through this. All of the lyrics are very, very poetic, very well written. He really knows how to write poetry. It's not just a bunch of cliche metalcore stuff. There are a little bit here and there, but you can't. It's hard to stray away from a lot of that. But I think if you really pay attention to the lyrics, there's a lot of stuff in here that can really hit you. Again, Whispers of Your Death. Just go read the lyrics and you can feel it. I'm mixed on. So the guitar work is beautiful in this album. I don't feel, if you want a negative, not really a negative, but I don't feel like there was like too many memorable guitar riffs. Like, there's a lot of riffs, but they move so quickly between them. It's, there's more like licks and stuff that stand out, but it's just like really quick, and they don't repeat a lot of stuff. So it's still very like interesting guitar work. There's a lot of interesting guitar work. There's just not a lot of like, a riff that, I could just really like, bop along to. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. We'll go into that with Jordan in a second, what they think. And I started to write down that I kind of wanted, I definitely want more from this album. It is very short, 33 minutes, which is a good length for an album. I could have used another track, fuck it, but I kind of wanted a little somber end. How they had Soil 2 and that other track that are very, the somber shoegazy. I kind of actually would have liked that at the end, I think. But as I started to write that down, they kind of did a little bit of that in the last track. Not too much of it, but it did get very emotional at the end, especially with the lyrics, if you're reading along with the lyrics. And even the vocals. Brendan does this interesting thing with his vocals. He sounds like if you picture it in your head, it sounds like he recorded this whole album, and then like right at the end, like he was like fucking tired, and he's just like sitting there like he's drained, and you can feel it in his vocals, and I mean that in a good way. It's like a very kind of raw feeling at the very end of the album. So overall, I really did like this. I'm gonna have to think honestly if I can give it a 10 or a 9 once we get there, but we'll definitely we'll have more of a discussion on it. So Jordan, what are you thinking about this?
I thought this was actually a really, really cool Counterparts album. It's definitely a step up from the last two albums. The last two albums were very, very similar, but I feel like this they brought in like just an extra little bit of atmosphere and melody in here. Like they've always had that melody, that really strong melody. The connection to like the melodic hardcore and stuff, but
Yeah, it feels like a
but
theme here.
yeah.
It's very thematic.
Yeah, it really fits the album, especially how it begins and it ends, and definitely in the middle, it kind of like ebbs and flows.
Misery Sick.
Yeah, you know, uh, uh, it definitely does that. It has that kind of rising and falling feeling. Um, that definitely it keeps you on your toes a little bit. Definitely, there's a lot of counterparts isms here. Like they very much have their sound and they very much follow their sound, but every album they really do try to find ways to kind of like push their songwriting a little bit and like the sound and kind of widen it a little bit. And definitely they added a lot of atmosphere. They definitely kind of hinted of adding like a lot of atmosphere. They definitely hinted at the little bit of atmosphere and stuff that they had in the last two albums, but this definitely brings it up like at least two notches. It feels like this album feels like probably their biggest sounding record. It's really it feels like it's got that room to breathe, and I feel like this kind of needs it because of the theme and how dark it is. But at the same time of it being dark, Counterparts has like a really good way of not having the music and instrumentals sound very dark.
Doesn't
At the
sound
same,
very depressing. Like it's very pretty.
yeah, yeah, it's very, very pretty at times and very I guess just very emotional. So whenever you do have that room to breathe, and you can definitely focus on having the album be more of an experience and not just a bunch of songs. And I really think that this album definitely does that really well. Um, Instrumentally, I think it's really, really good. They have their old two guitarists back, so they I feel like they've definitely had a little bit of time away from the band. I know one of them still kind of like wrote for the band a little bit. He just didn't really tour with them, so there you can still feel like the the threads throughout the album of all the old stuff, which is really cool because there was a little while where they did kind of, I don't want to say they lost their melody, but there wasn't like a focus, like a heavy focus on melody. It was more of just like an extra layer of on top of things to kind of spice it up a little bit. But they definitely brought a lot of that melody back and a lot more than previous albums. So that's really, really cool to hear. You can definitely hear the progression and like just how the guitar riffs are like structured and how much it really flows to the album. They don't really focus on much of like the riffing. They kind of just leave it more to like
Mhm.
supplement the songs. Which before they really didn't do that. They were definitely more of like on the Misery Signal side where they're like really riff focused and very
Yeah.
like uh not so much not melodic, but not so much melodic. Um, if you listen to like the first Counterparts record, you can definitely hear a little bit of that. But I feel like this is definitely more song focused, which is really cool, um, because you know older kind of metalcore and hardcore, it kind of leans a little bit on that too much, and I feel like the more modern metalcore is just more song focused, which is it's definitely like an acquired taste because it kind of feels a little generic with all the choruses and how many times, even though like not every song has a 3 chorus structure, there's still a little bit of that. So there's definitely a little bit of a separation, which, um, depending on who you are, you can either like that or not like that. But I'm more of a person that definitely leans more on the side of I like having that duality between the melody and the heavy and the soft and the quiet and having those dynamics. I feel it really makes the songs more interesting. Um, and there's just a little bit more experimentation there. So, yeah, I really enjoyed this Counterparts album. It's definitely their most emotional. Like,
Yeah.
I was tearing up a little bit, and like
Yeah.
here and now.
Not yeah. Again,
Even
multiple
you know,
tracks.
yeah, and it's really powerful album. So,
What did you think about
definitely,
the end
I
album?
feel I feel like it was more of a standard. They're just kind of they have, like I said, during the album, they kind of have their like album structures to kind of unlock, I guess, where their albums really flow kind of similarly, and they kind of have a very, you know, like an intro and an outro, and I feel like this is definitely along the side, more of the sides of like those other albums and stuff, but this one definitely fits with the amount of atmosphere at the end and how much the song has the room to breathe, because it's definitely, I think it's the longest song on the album. So it definitely feels like it has that kind of epic feeling, I think.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I just wish, I don't know. It's kind of weird. Like I feel like just like having like a little more of a like have everything that's in that song and then just add on like a little bit of like a more of a melodic soft like play out or something, like a maybe like a piano or something, add something just a little
Yeah,
bit
they could
to.
have held it out a little bit more. Yeah, I definitely agree on that. I also agree with you that I could have used one more song, but I think that all of their albums have, you know, 11, 11 or 10 songs.
Yeah.
So I definitely feel like they kind of, um, I feel like they write like just enough music and that they have a little bit left over, because they did have that B-sides
Mm-hmm.
thing. And then they had like that private room EP whenever they did the private room tour, which was kind of more of like just a, just kind of like a short little burst. But yeah, I feel like this definitely could have used an extra song. I feel like, because it was so short. Um, Definitely, that would have maybe added a little bit more
Yeah,
of
I think especially
the epic feeling a little bit.
with having that those slower songs, those couple songs to like break it up, uh that I think it broke it up a lot. Like it could have, like I think, adding another song at the end, uh, after Soil 2, because you got Soil
Also,
2 and then those
yeah,
two tracks. Um, so I think, I don't know, just a little nitpick. I think just could have.
yeah, and usually like in their kind of more modern era of their music, on their albums they definitely have like one of those hype songs on every album, but this one doesn't really have that, which is kind of different. I was definitely kind of missing that a little bit. I feel like Bound to the Burn was supposed to be that, but they usually have like a kind of like a 1 to 2 minute, like just really
Yeah.
fast and heavy, like really like heavy breakdown. but they didn't really do that. Like they've done that on the past, what, 3 albums, 4? No, I maybe the last 4 albums, but they definitely didn't do that. I kind of missed out a little bit, so maybe that definitely could have done it, having that, you know. But I don't really think the album really suffers too much from it.
Yeah, it's
I
not
feel
a
like it's
big.
it's more of just like we just want to hear a little bit more, you know, because it is so good. You just want to hear a little bit more, you know.
Yeah, you know, the 33 minutes is pretty short. I think, you know, just like if they could have padded it out, just so, you know, it had room for that. I think it's just all it is. It had space, but I think what they did put on there is, you know, pretty damn good. So either way.
It still does have a really good flow to it. So
Yeah.
I really appreciate that. So yeah, really, really good.
All right. So rating wise, what are you thinking about for rating this? I'm still kind of stuck. I don't.
See, I'm stuck as well.
Like, I know, okay, see, I always say that you know, I reserve the 10 out of 10s for stuff that's, like, very emotionally impactful and can make me cry. It's kind of that one track, it's a cheap shot, okay? That's an easy one to make me cry. That's, you know, just that topic is very specific, and...
Also, I mean, it's very relatable. Like, it doesn't even have to just be about a pet. It could
Yeah,
be
yeah.
about really about anyone who's lost anything, you know.
Mhm.
I definitely feel like you can pick that emotion out, but I think I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. It didn't not quite hit that spot for me. It didn't have like that really really big moment. It definitely did have like a couple big notable moments, like Unwavering Vow, the first song, Bound to the Burn was like a really good one. That kind of interlude, Skin Beneath the Scar, was really stand out with that solo.
Yeah, the solo.
But I feel like it was just missing just that little bit of like extra spice on top to give it a perfect score for me. But it's still really, really good. If I could give it a 9.5, I think I'd give it a 9.5. But it's just missing that little bit of wow factor. Like, but at the same time, I don't think every album needs to have like be super groundbreaking. So maybe if it did have that one hype song, maybe that could have done it, because, you know, we're kind of used to that now, especially Counterparts fans, because they've done it like so much. But I can see why they kind of maybe wanted to break away from
with the theme and everything.
This definitely is like a kind of a departure from their sound, but not really. It's not a far departure, but it's definitely a step up. So it's kind of it's definitely one of their best albums. It's definitely up there for me.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10 as well. I don't know. Like, there was, like you said, not every album has to have a wow factor, but I think the wow factor is what hits the 10 out of 10. You know, like I said, there's the when something's emotionally impactful, it's still, that usually breaches that 10 out of 10 territory. But it's just something.
Yeah, you gotta leave a little room.
There's
for
something
else. You know?
Yeah, I think if it could have had just another track, or I think it could have used another track maybe, but especially the end. I think the end really worked, but I could see it going a little step further and having that more just a melodic thing to kind of tie it off, you know, to give it that, because it's especially with the theme of the album, you know, a eulogy for those still here. I think they did so many pretty stuff in here, and the two melodic songs or not melodic songs. They're all fucking melodic. The two softer songs, I think they could have implemented that extra into the very end to give it just a little bit something. Just something. I don't know. There's just something, and I'm gonna give it a 9. But that's a damn 9 is an A plus. Okay, on my scale. 10 out of 10 is S tier. So this is like A plus is still fucking top. You know, really good stuff. So you know, don't take that as a negative or a wrong thing. It just that's what it is. It is what it is. You know.
And if we do give it a 10 out of 10 and something else comes out of nowhere and just blows us away, then you know you got to leave a little bit of room.